Hey, it's Errol Collins. From VH1, That Metal Show, Don Jamieson is in town this weekend at the Comedy Zone. I had to pop the question. Everybody knows you as this guy who loves metal. And then it turns out you're a funny guy up on stage. How's that work?
Yeah, well, I am an old-time rock guy. I mean, I'm 46, and, I still wear concert shirts and, a wallet chain and have big, 70s-style mutton chops. So, yeah, I'm still that guy. But and I always loved music, hard rock and metal my whole life growing up. I wanted to be a musician, when I was growing up, but there was just, to be honest, there's just too much equipment to carry. So I said, let me find something easier to do. And, comedy's better because then, you just put your jokes in your back pocket and you're on your way.
Dude, how did you find your funny bone? Suddenly you woke up one morning?
I knew I had comedy down when I had this huge zit on my nose when I was about 15 in Spanish class. And I just couldn't resist the urge to stand up in the middle of the class, pop the zit, the contents went flying everywhere. And then I ran up to the front of the room, slammed myself into the chalkboard. It was screaming at the top of my lungs, and then fell down on the floor like I died. And needless to say, I wasn't in school the rest of that day, but that was where I was like, you know what, I think I got a little bit of a performer in me.
Was there ever a rock star T-shirt that you would wear at school that people would laugh at? I mean, I always got busted wearing Kiss T-shirts, and they thought I was the freak.
That's all I wore. Exactly. You and I are in the same boat. That's all I used to wear to school was Kiss T-shirts and Motley Crue and Judas Priest. And, yeah, I mean, all the kids in my school were, like, into Bruce Springsteen and, Pink Floyd and stuff. They were all stoners, and me and my friends were all the metalheads. So, yeah, we were total outcasts, and then, the more they hated us, the more we would start to wear spandex. Sometimes we wear makeup to school, I tried to look like Vince Neil on the front cover, in the inside cover of Shout at the Devil. Everyone hated me, but I didn't care. I just always loved this music. So I'm like, go ahead, keep making fun of me. But someday, 30 years from now or so, I'm going to have my own heavy metal talk show, and here we are.
Okay, you're the only one that's going to be able to set me straight here. In my first book, I say that comedy doesn't exist. What it is, it's the act of relating. How do you feel about that, since you're the dude that's up on stage?
No, you're right. It's the act of relating. It's being truthful. The best comics are the ones who are truthful, and of course it's all exaggeration as well. Comedy is, truth plus exaggeration, plus time. You got to throw that in there. But, look at all the best comics. Look at, Richard Pryor. He talked about how he was freebasing and he burnt his face up, and George Carlin talking, all about all the, personal things in his life and, his feelings on everything. And that's really what it is. It's just, because we all talk about the same stuff generally. We talk about our relationships. We talk about our life in general, but it just depends on, where your truth comes from. I don't have as crazy a life as Richard Pryor had, but, I come from a different angle. As long as you come from your own point of view and you could sort of twist it your own way and present it in a way where people don't see it coming, you can talk about anything, but it's got to be truthful, because the audience can tell if you're not being honest with them.
Being a comedian up on that stage every night, that's got to be your strength when it comes to interviewing the biggest names in metal.
It is really, man, because, you got to think of it this way. It's these three guys from Jersey who've just all been metalheads our whole life, and here we are talking to all our heavy metal idols, from our childhood. And I think of it like it's like, remember the Super Bowl commercial where that really super nerdy guy kisses that hot supermodel for GoDaddy?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I feel like every time I do the show. Like, when Slash is on, he's like a hot chick to me. When Ronnie James Dio came on the show, he's a hot chick to me, I feel like that nerd making out with that hot chick every time I do the show, because these are, I've been waiting 30 years to, like, hang out with these people, and now, they're coming on my TV show, and so, yeah, it's incredible.
All right, there you go. That's my interview with Don Jamieson from That Metal Show, VH1 Classic. They're in town this weekend at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte. You want to find out more? You are so in the right place. WRFX.com.